wage their battle to destroy the evil forces of the Decepticons, the Transformers. The Transformers. The beastly Transformers.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another exciting edition of Transformers Reviews. Well, today, guys, we're going to take a look at the Power of the Prime's Swoop. And I gotta say, the Swoop, I just think out of all the ones that we've got so far, as much as I love like Jazz and Beachcomber and Slag and the others, there's just something about Swoop. Because I love, especially the way they designed him, you can actually, if you wanted to have him displayed like he's just sitting there with the rest of his dino buddies, you know, whenever you have all the Dinobots, you can do that. I want to show you how he stacks up with like other pterodactyl transformers. They could kind of sit, but they don't look as good as Swoop does. Like Pterosaur here, you're kind of like, you know, that's kind of stretching it. This is actually the Pterosaur mold from Beast Wars, but they recolored it and re-released him as a updated version of this Swoop, which is funny because the way these came out chronologically in order was this version of the mold came out before this one, but this character in the G1 came before this one. So if you wanted to put Swoop in a flying position, you could kind of do it like this. Even the instructions say to kick out his feet on the back here. And you know what? I mean, as a pterodactyl, I really do like this. Now, one thing I did want to mention on his head is whenever I got him, his head, his beast mode head, you know, it does hide his robot mode head. Whenever I got him, it actually kind of was like this. It wouldn't sit flush up against the head. It would just kind of sag like this. And I'm not going to say that that's going to be every Swoop, because like I said, I've only bought this one. But what I ended up doing was down here, I was able to put some small little kind of plastic pieces on both sides of this hinge just to kind of make it a little more stiff. So now it will sit actually flush, and even if I, you know, shake his head, you can see it doesn't move. It sits flush, but yet it still allows for it to come down whenever you want to transform him into robot mode. And so now we're going to go ahead and move on to the combiner tech for the new Power of the Primes. And one thing is, him and Jazz, it's funny because this stuff, I've never been too crazy about these pieces in general, but him and Jazz, it doesn't look bad on their alternate modes, which is kind of interesting. So if we go ahead and we attach it, it just tabs on there like that. You can fold these down, get them out of the way. And I mean, it's not too big of an obstruction on Swoop. I mean, that's one of the things is I like a little bit more of a cleaner look. And although it is a little bulky, it's not just like a huge thing to me. So you can take any of your Prime Masters and plug them in there, and that way, if a kid had this, they could play like, you know, they're getting the power of whatever Prime they have plugged in. And you know, like I said, it's not terrible. You know, and I'm okay with it. Now, most of the time, I'm not going to have that on there. So now that you've kind of seen how he looks with comparisons and overall beast mode, his robot mode is where he really shines. So let's go ahead and let's take a look at that real quick. Okay, and so here we have Swoop in his robot mode. And one of the things you'll notice about Swoop is that for just as spot on as his beast mode was, now that we can kind of see him in robot mode, he is just as spot on in this one as well. But I love just how every aspect of it. And unlike other Dinobots who had a red chest in the TV show, he did have actually a blue torso or blue chest. So I was like, you know what? That's actually pretty cool that they nailed that. Now, I went ahead and gave him one of the combiner handgun weapons just because all he comes with is his sword. Which, that's not a bad thing, but I thought, you know, it'd be nice to kind of give him a little bit of both. But we'll go ahead and set that off to the side. And his wings are, you have a lot of flexibility. I mean, you can have, this is what the instructions show him to have them like this. But if you guys have seen my other videos, you know that I kind of like them to to kind of be out like this and everything, and to kind of have that little flared look. It looks really cool, especially when their wings are like this. And you know, you can put them in oh, well, that exposed a little secret there. We'll get to that in a second. Anyway, you can put him in a lot of cool different poses, especially with the sword, or you know, whenever he had the gun. Now it does have the millimeter peg holes on the arms, and that is for the other use of this. Again, this is just your standard tech for the new line. And so much like Jazz, you can actually fold that down and put it right here so that he could have maybe shoulder or arm armor, you know. I mean, that, see, now that's kind of cool. And if you want to, we'll go ahead and put a Prime Master in there. But the reason I like it on this is much like Jazz, I think that Swoop, even more so than Jazz, they found the best way to implement this new Prime armor. And for his, if you look on his back here, you can see that even though the wings are arced, that actually makes these little little notches, that actually makes them straight up and down to match the little tabs on the Prime armor. Actually, I'm looking at the wrong ones. They're actually here and here. So go ahead and put those in. And boom. Now, and what is funny is here, when his wings are arced up, even though you can see it, like visually you wouldn't notice it. It just kind of helps fill in the sides of his little skinny torso here. But what I love is you can have this attached to his back here in robot mode, and it just looks so much better than it did in vehicle, or I'm sorry, beast mode. So you go ahead and you tab in, let's put in Liege Maximo here. So then he could, you know, fly around with whatever powers that Liege Maximo has. Or if you wanted to, you could take any of the other combiner enigmas. Like here's the, came off. Sorry about that. Anyway, you could put in the Seeker Enigma. Or if you wanted to, you could even put in the Chaos Enigma. So we're going to put that in there. Oh, I guess he's an evil Swoop now. But anyway, other than that, not a whole lot to really talk about in his robot mode. I mean, everything about it, perfect. I have no complaints. Everything from colors, you know, just, it's really awesome. So you kind of briefly saw him with Slug or Slag. I'm going to call him Slag. Anyway, you can see how he looks with his fellow Dinobots there. And I'm not going to zoom out for this one, or maybe I will. But you can kind of see that they both, this is Magnus Prime from the Chaos on the Siege on Cybertron set. So you can see that they just, I mean, the top of his little head fin here just comes to Optimus's waist. So, but again, that's the difference between these two size classes. So let's go ahead and see what he looks like when we go ahead and combine him with some other bots. Man, from this angle, he looks really cool. And I got to say that having Swoop as part of Skyrain, especially with this selection of guys, it really looks good and cool. I just love this look that he got going on right here. And a part of it is the fact that, you know, like I mentioned, I was going to go ahead and put his wings out kind of like they are here. Well, that's why I went ahead and included Pterosaur. Not just because he's a pterodactyl, but because his wings could kind of help balance out Swoops here. And I think it looks good, you know, especially with the wings coming off the arms. Oh, well, before that, you notice that I went ahead and used the Power of the Prime's hands. The reason being is whether you have a Power of the Prime's figure or a Combiner Wars figure, they are cross-compatible with either the Combiner Wars hands or the Power of the Prime hands. And if you wanted to go the other route, they even work with these third-party hands. So, and like they each have their own little, you know, flexibility. Like with this one using the Power of the Prime's hands, it gives him the ability to hold the sword like this in the hand, which gives it just a little bit more of a realistic look, in my opinion. And I just have really kind of one more thing I wanted to bring out about Swoop before we close out, and that's the fact that it's very similar with the other three guys that connect to Skylinks. Is until I had him all put together, I didn't notice how these guys have like certain punches or overall colors that help tie into the core robot of the Combiner. But other than that, guys, I really hope you enjoyed this review, and until next time, we'll see you in another one.